I trusted my Godfather with everything, my money, my home, even my life. But he lied, manipulated, and trapped me for years. Panic attacks, poverty, and betrayal became my reality while he smiled, claiming it was protection. When I discovered the truth, I realized I wasn't just controlled, I was owned. What he did next left me shattered. I was sitting on the bathroom floor with my back pressed against the tub, clutching my chest because I couldn't breathe. My vision was tunneling, my ears were ringing, and I thought I was about to. Right there, surrounded by mildew-stained tiles and an empty bottle of generic antacids. On the other side of the door, Noah's voice was steady, cold, calculated. You'll stop this little performance when you realize I own every part of you. Daniel, the roof over your head, the food you eat, the account you think is yours, it's all mine. You're nothing without me. I remember choking out a single word through my gasps. Why? And his response, God, I'll never forget it, was almost a whisper, but sharp enough to cut through my panic attack. Because control feels better than love. And you were stupid enough to hand me the keys. I had trusted this man my entire life. My Godfather. My so-called protector. And now, at 26, I was broke, jobless, and trapped in his house like sympathetic dependent. I couldn't even buy a pack of gum without him knowing. That night, I had tried to use my debit card to grab a frozen pizza at the corner store, just a frozen pizza. $3 and the card got declined. At the end. The cashier gave me that pitying look, the one that says loser, and I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. When I called the bank, they told me my account was linked to Noah's and all withdrawals required his approval. I felt like my blood had turned to ice. I hadn't agreed to that. I hadn't signed anything. But he had somehow tied everything to his name, my bank, my lease, even my damn car insurance. So there I was, locked in the bathroom because I couldn't stand to let him see me break. My body was shaking so hard my teeth chattered, and my hands were numb from hyperventilating. No one knocked once, slow and deliberate. You're lucky I feed you at all. Other people your age are out there starving. You should be grateful. Panic attacks, don't buy groceries. Danny boy, I do. It wasn't just the words. It was how calm he sounded. Like this wasn't abuse, it was strategy. Like he'd planned this moment for years, waiting for me to realize that he's clipped my wings so completely I couldn't fly if I wanted to. I pressed my forehead to my knees, then whispered to myself, this isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. But the locked bank account, the unpaid phone bill, the empty pantry, they were all very real. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a rare moment of outside contact. It was a text from my sister. You okay? You've been quiet lately. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wanted to scream for help, to tell her everything, but the bathroom door creaked and no shadow loomed under the crack. I froze. Text me back when you're done sulking, he said through the door. Tell her you're fine. Don't make me clean up your mess. The humiliation was unbearable. I couldn't even send a message without him interfering. I felt like a child again, powerless, forceless. And worst of all, he enjoyed it. When I finally gathered the courage to open the door, Noah was leaning against the hallway wall with a glass of whiskey in his hand, smirking. You're not going anywhere, Daniel. Remember that. You belong to me until I say otherwise. Something inside me cracked then. Not the loud shattering of glass, more like the quiet snap of a burn that nobody sees but you feel every second after. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding every time the floor creaked, every time he moved in the hallway. I realized I wasn't just broke, I was owned. And the worst part? He had the paperwork to prove it. Because the next morning, when I went to dig through the file cabinet in the living room, looking for my lease or my bank statements, I found something tucked in a manila folder with my name scrawled on it. Something that made my stomach drop and my hands go ice cold. It was a legal document I'd never seen before. My signature was on it. And right beneath, in bold black letters, were the words, people always say hindsight is 20/20, but looking back now, I feel like an idiot. The red flags weren't just there were neon signs flashing in my face. But at the time, Noah was Uncle Noah, the Godfather, who took me to baseball games, bought me my first car, and told me he'd always be my safety net. After my mom passed when I was 18, Noah was the one waiting outside the hospital, arms open, saying, I'll take care of you now, kid. Your mom trusted me for a reason. I was a grief-stricken teenager. Of course I believed him. In college, when my student loans piled up and I panicked about dropping out, he swooped in again. Don't worry about that interest rate garbage, he said, sliding a pen across the table. I'll handle your finances, just focus on school. That was the first time I signed something without reading it. I didn't even hesitate. I was exhausted, broke and desperate, and Noah made everything sound so easy. He even chuckled when I apologized for being a burden. Your family, he said. Family doesn't keep score. But he was keeping score. I just didn't know it yet. Little by little, he inserted himself into every part of my life. When I got my first job, he set up my direct deposit into an account he controlled. Just a temporary thing, he assured me. I'm better with budgeting than you. When I wanted to move into my own apartment, he offered to be the guarantor. Landlords trust older signatures, he joked. Looking back, I see the pattern. He never asked, he framed it like he was rescuing me. And I never said no, because saying no to the only adult left who gave a damn about me felt impossible. Even my friends noticed. My college roommate, Leo, once whispered after Noah left our dorm, dude, it's kinda weird how he always wants copies of your paperwork. I brushed it off. He's just protective. Protective. That's what I told myself every time something felt off. The turning point was 2 years after graduation, when I lost my job. Noah didn't even let me tell him. I came home to find him already sitting at my kitchen table, a printout of my termination letter in front of him. Your HR is sloppy, he said, smirking. They sent the email to the joint account. Good thing I check it. Joint account? I blinked. You know, he said, waving a hand. The one your paycheck goes into. Don't worry, I moved the funds before they could freeze anything. I remember laughing nervously. I didn't know it was joint. The details, Daniel, he said, sipping his coffee. You're too emotional to handle numbers. That was his favourite line. You are too emotional. Anytime I questioned something, my bank balance, my car title, even the lock he changed on my apartment door, he said I was overreacting. Then there was his constant undermining of my independence. When I tried to apply for a credit card, I got a rejection letter citing co-signer restricted. When I asked no about it, he smiled without looking up from his phone. Yeah, I'm on your profile, protects you from scammers. You're welcome. The last straw before everything blew up happened 3 months ago. I was at my sister Emily's place for dinner, the first time I'd been alone with her in months. She noticed I didn't have my wallet. Nose holding it, I muttered. Her folk froze midair. Why the hell would he have your wallet? I shrugged. He says it's safer with him, less chance of me losing it. Her face went pale. Daniel, that's not normal. I felt my stomach clench. He's just helping me budget. It's temporary. Emily didn't buy it. Call your bank right now, she said. I promised I would. But when I tried, the customer service rep asked me to verify information I didn't even recognize, like a second email address, a PIN number I'd never created. They told me the primary account holder was not Andrews. Primary account holder. On my own bank account. That night, lying awake in Noah's guest bedroom because my own apartment's lease had mysteriously expired, I felt something shift. The panic that had been simmering for years boiled into cold rage. The next morning, when Noah left for a meeting, I tore through his filing cabinet looking for my documents. That's when I found it, the manila folder, the signature I didn't remember writing, and the bold black letters giving him legal power over me. I stood there holding it, my hands trembling so hard the pages rattled. Everything, every red flag, every favour, every subtle humiliation snapped into place. And then I heard his car pull back into the driveway. The folder in my hands felt like a weapon. I barely registered the sound of Noah's car pulling into the driveway. My chest was tight, my fingers slick with sweat, and every instinct screamed run, but I couldn't. Not yet. I had to see the truth. I opened the folder slowly, like peeling back layers of skin. Inside were contracts, bank statements, and even emails I didn't remember sending. Every line screamed manipulation. Every signature in my shaky hand confirmed that my entire financial life was his to control. But that wasn't the worst part. At the very bottom was a folder labelled Property and Assets Daniel Andrews. I flipped it open. My childhood home, my old college savings, my car, even the tiny inheritance my mother had left me, everything was legally tied to Noah. My heart thudded in disbelief. I felt like the air had been punched out of me. I grabbed my phone to call Emily. I had to tell someone before he returned. But then I realised that the phone was registered to his number. Every call I made, every text I sent, went through Noah's line. He wasn't just controlling my finances, he had trapped me in every possible way. I sank to the floor, staring at the papers, mind spiralling. Panic, anger, betrayal, they all collided into a storm that left me shaking uncontrollably. I felt my chest tighten and my throat burn. And then the second hit came. There were letters from my old employers, marked urgent, explaining deductions and benefits I never received. He had redirected my paychecks, my health insurance contributions, even my student loan payments. He had drained my accounts for years while keeping me convinced that he was helping. I couldn't breathe. I could feel my pulse in my temples. I thought I was going to collapse. Then I saw something that made my stomach churn like I'd swallowed metal. Emails from friends Leo, Emily, even my therapist asking why I wasn't responding, if I was okay. And Noah had intercepted every single one. He'd been monitoring my communication, making sure nobody could reach me without his knowledge. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was total. I remember sitting there, gripping the folder, and whispering, No, this isn't real. It can't be real. But it was. When Noah finally walked in, he didn't even notice the folder at first. He was humming, flipping through a magazine, the picture of casual normalcy. Hey, Danny, he said casually. You look tense. I couldn't control myself. You lied to me. Everything, my bank, my apartment, my money, you've been controlling it all. He laughed softly, almost kindly. Control. Daniel, there's a difference. You always freak out when you think you're losing control. I just made sure you never would. I felt bile rise in my throat. You've been stealing from me. This isn't protection, it's theft. You call it theft, he said, tilting his head. I call it guidance. You'd be dead in a ditch if it weren't for me. The room spun. My hands shook so violently I dropped the folder, the papers fluttering like wounded birds to the floor. I realised I had been living in a cage of his making, and the realisation was physically painful. My body convulsed in fear and anger, my chest threatening to explode. Then came the twist I never expected. Among the documents, I found a series of letters and bank statements showing other people he had manipulated, former friends, distant relatives, even business partners. He had done this before, and apparently he had no intention of stopping. I wasn't an anomaly, I was just the latest victim in a long trail of exploitation. I stared at him, my mind numb. You've done this to others too. His smirk widened. Of course, I take care of the people I choose to. Some are grateful, some aren't. You'll thank me eventually. That's when I realised the full extent of my isolation. I couldn't trust anyone who was supposed to be able to help me because he had been watching everything. My panic attacks, my sleepless nights, my financial stress, he orchestrated it all to break me down, so I'd never challenge him. The psychological impact was instantaneous. I felt smaller than I'd ever felt in my life, a caged, helpless animal. Every memory of laughter, of family dinners, of protection he offered, now burned with betrayal. I sank to the floor, sobbing, shaking, and screaming in rage. The folder lay in pieces around me, a grave marker for the trust I had once given him freely. And through it all, Noah stood over me, calm, smug, the architect of my ruin, while I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just broke. I wasn't just trapped. I was his. And there was no way out yet. I don't even remember standing up. One second I was on the floor surrounded by papers. The next, I was nose to nose with Noah, my voice shaking but louder than it had ever been. "You're a parasite," I spat. "You've stolen my entire life. This ends today." He didn't even blink. He swallowed the ice in his glass like he was bored at a dinner party. "You don't end anything, Daniel. You can't even buy toothpaste without me. Sit down before you embarrass yourself." Something inside me snapped. All the panic, all the nights I'd spent shaking in bathrooms, every humiliation came boiling up. "I'm calling the police right now." His smirk faltered just a flicker, but it was enough to keep me going. "Oh, go ahead," he said. "Show them the paperwork. Everything is legal. You signed it all." But this time, I had leverage. I grabbed my phone and hit the button for speaker. Emily's voice filled the room. "Daniel, I'm here. Are you safe?" Noah's eyes narrowed. I had called her from the neighbour's landline while Noah was gone. I'd left the line open on mute. She'd heard everything. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking. "Tell him." "I'm already on with the police," she said. "They're recording, and I forwarded all the documents she texted me." Noah's face drained of colour. He lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. My hands were still trembling, but for the first time in years, I felt taller. "You think you're clever," he hissed. "You think they'll believe you. Your mass panic attacks, no job, no money. You look unstable." I took a deep breath. "Maybe, but you left the trail." I held up a sheaf of papers. Forged signatures, intercepted emails, redirected payments. This isn't guidance, it's fraud. The knock on the door came hard and fast. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside before Noah could react. "Mr. Andrews," one of them said. "We need you to step away." Noah tried to bluster. "This is my house, he's trespassing." "It's my lease." I shot back. "You forged my signature to take over my finances. We have proof." The officers moved closer. One of them read him his rights while the other collected the scattered documents. Noah's face twisted from smugness to raw hatred. "You ungrateful little brat," he snarled. "After everything I did for you." "Everything you did to me," I corrected, my voice steadier now. Emily arrived minutes later, her arms around me before I could collapse. I'd imagined this confrontation so many times, but in reality it felt like standing after being underwater for too long, gasping, dizzy, disoriented. The police led Noah out in handcuffs. He tried one last time to turn it back on me. "You think you're free?" he shouted from the porch. "You're nothing without me. You will crawl back." But this time, the words didn't land. The neighbours were outside watching. Phones were recording. And for the first time, Noah wasn't the co-architect of my life, he was just a middle-aged predator being hauled away. Inside, an officer helped me gather the paperwork into evidence bags. "You are going to want to contact a lawyer," he said gently. "This is a lot of money and a lot of fraud." I nodded, my body trembling so hard my teeth chattered. "I didn't even know it was happening," I whispered. He gave me a sympathetic look. That's how people like him operate. That night, I stayed at Emily's place. We sat on her couch surrounded by take-out containers and copies of documents we'd printed for the police. She held my hand and said, "You're safe now." I wanted to believe her. But the damage wasn't just financial. It was inside me, years of believing I was incompetent, broken, dependent. Years of being told that control was care. Still, as I watched Noah's mugshot flash across the local news the next morning, prominent businessman arrested for financial exploitation, I felt a small flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The first few weeks after Noah was arrested were surreal. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of my apartment floor, every knock at the door sent me into a panic. Emily stayed with me, sitting quietly in the living room while I paced, my mind replaying every moment of betrayal like a broken record. Therapy was terrifying at first. Sitting in that chair, confessing years of manipulation, gaslighting, and theft to a stranger, I felt exposed. But Dr. Hernandez didn't flinch. She nodded, asked probing questions, and most importantly, she helped me put words to feelings I didn't even realize I had buried. Fear, shame, rage, and grief. The financial recovery was messier than I'd imagined. Lawyers, audits, and court dates became my new normal. Noah had tangled my accounts in a web of deception, diverting money, altering statements, and hiding assets. Every document I pulled out made my stomach turn. Every phone call felt like a battlefield. But with Emily's unwavering support and a tenacious lawyer, I slowly began untangling the mess. The first milestone was reclaiming my bank accounts. Walking into the bank and seeing my name as the sole account holder again felt unreal. I remember gripping the edge of the counter, tears blurring my vision, and whispering, "I'm finally free." But freedom didn't erase the trauma. I had panic attacks for months. Grocery shopping alone felt like an impossible task. Every interaction with strangers was coloured by the paranoia Noah had instilled. Therapy helped, but it wasn't a straight line. There were setbacks, days when I felt like I was back in that bathroom, gasping for air, trapped under his control. Empowerment came in small steps. First, I opened a credit card in my name for the first time ever. Then I got a job at a marketing agency, handling small accounts at first. Each paycheck, each bill I paid on my own, rebuilt a piece of me that Noah had tried to crush. I also began documenting my experience, writing down every detail, every email, every phone call. I wanted others to see how someone could be manipulated, groomed, and trapped financially by someone they trusted. Sharing my story with close friends and online support groups was cathartic. The messages poured in, people thanking me for speaking out, others sharing their own nightmares. That connection made me feel less alone. Family relationships shifted too. Emily became my anchor, but my relationship with extended family was fractured. Some were shocked, some refused to believe how deep Noah's manipulation went. It was painful, but necessary. I learned that healing sometimes means letting go of people who can't or would understand. The legal case dragged on for months, but the verdict was satisfying. Noah was sentenced to prison, barred from any financial control over anyone. It wasn't vengeance, it was justice. Still, knowing he was behind bars didn't erase the years of emotional trauma he caused. Today, I live in my own apartment, fully under my own name, with bills, savings, and autonomy I never thought I'd have. Therapy continues, but I can walk down the street without feeling watched or trapped. I've learned to trust myself again. Most importantly, I've learned the hardest lesson of all: love and trust are not just about words, they are about actions. Noah's betrayal taught me to be vigilant, to recognize red flags, and to protect myself emotionally and financially. I still feel anger, sure. Sometimes it flares when I see a headline about financial exploitation or manipulative people. But I also feel pride. Pride that I survived, that I reclaimed my life, and that I can now help others do the same. Noah took years, for me years of freedom, security, and peace. But he didn't take my resilience. He didn't take my voice. And for the first time in my life, I'm completely, entirely, and irrevocably free. I'm no longer the boy trapped in his Godfather's cage. I'm a man who knows his worth, who has faced devastation, and who has emerged stronger, wiser, and unbroken. And if anyone ever tries to take that from me again, they'll quickly learn that I will never be a victim twice.